then there was 25. So let's continue down the line here with Jesse, the purple saddle tank engine. So Jesse is an OC made by Kelvin Rogers, and this is a Thomas Wood Percy with a physical face. Kelvin Rogers said he was going to get a physical face instead of like a paper face. So I think it looks good. It's a nice improvement. Now, his sort of face is different from mine because I actually made the eyelashes like that, and she has a little bit of white showing.
Looks good.
So, he got the face from his Barry the Rescue Engine design, but he said he got a Thomas face to replace it. Like, this was particularly the face that he traded from the Birthday Thomas. I hope I'm saying that right, but that's all I know. So, let's look at this other saddle tank engine, who looks a little like Kelvin Rogers' OC, Kara. This is Trevin, the green tank engine. If you don't know who he is, he's like a character that you can play as in the Cool Beans Railway. So, I don't know whose OC Trevin is, but maybe you guys can tell me. But I think he's kind of interesting. The fact that he has 6 wheels, when usually saddle tank engines have 4. Like just here. And the chassis came from like this wooden railway Thomas. I think it was like a 1995 version. Actually, this says 2003.
Okay.
I don't know where I got that. Now let's look at a request from Kelvin Rogers. Yeah, he suggested this character. This is Princess Luna. You may have seen her a couple of times in Thomas and Lady's Equestrian Adventures. But I love Princess Luna. I'm happy with the request. So thank you, Kelvin Rogers, for suggesting Princess Luna. I mean, that's the first time I ever heard him request a MLP character, which is kind of interesting and cool. And speaking of that, let's look at this engine here. So this is actually a Pannier tank engine, only this is made from Nia. And her name is actually Derpy Hooves, if you can tell by the eyes.
The derp face. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think she looks pretty interesting. So this was inspired by Train Boy 54. And she has gray wheels. So I think she looks pretty cute.
I like that color.
Now let's take a look at Lyra Heartstrings here.
Ooh.
So this is another one of Train Boy 54's inspirations. And she is,
That is a cool
another
color
character
scheme.
from Thomas and Lady's
It's like
Equestrian
mint green
Adventures.
and light blue.
She kind of reminds me of Minty from MLP. Yeah,
It's cute. Look at the tender.
and she has blue stripes, and I have to say, she looks pretty good.
Yeah, I like that.
Now, I am planning to make Sweetie Drops as well. They're like a pair, if you didn't notice. And now let's take a look at this engine here. So this is a G-scale locomotive, and his name is Marklin. So he's like a Marklin engine, judging by the title. And Marklin actually doesn't have a face, but I decided to give him one because it looks kind of creepy without a face. So I just thought I'd do that to Marklin, and the chassis came from the Wooden Railway Stanley, mainly Peter Sam's old model. So yeah. Now let's take a look at this engine here. So this is based off a Hornby locomotive, and his name is Smokey Joe. And his face is like a grumpy James face. So this is inspired by another YouTuber, only I don't know which one specifically. But let me explain about Smokey Joe. So I plan to use him in the episode Liam and Caitlin. So this is just an idea for me. Smokey Joe's gonna be like one of the villains in Thomas and Lady's Equestrian Adventures. But I think he looks good. Let me know what you guys like about Smokey Joe. I hope you look forward to Liam and Caitlin. I hope you'll like the episode, but I'll explain later. We're at 5 minutes, so I think we'll do this engine here. So this is a 3D printed Thomas Wood engine made from a Yongbao and a 3D printed body, scratch built by me in 3D Builder.
Very nice.
And this is Lorenzo, the Italian opera singer.
I like it.
So I think Lorenzo is like an experimental locomotive.
Yeah, I like it.
Although it looks like it, I don't think he is actually. But I just think that
How did you
because
get his face on there?
with tacky glue.
Okay, that's how you should do him. I like that better than the tape.
And what I like is he has gold stripes and the
Treble clef.
G clef right
Yeah,
here.
I like that.
So I think that's pretty awesome about Lorenzo.
Looks
And if
good.
you're asking, yes, I will make Beppe sometime soon. Beppe is Lorenzo's coach.
Okay.
So we looked at 8 customs. So let's continue with this one. We're at 6 minutes. So we're doing pretty good. We just are trying not to get over 10 minutes. But this is Raphael, one of the Superstation villains who is sent away. Later on in Medieval Misadventures, Zella has
Ooh, I like his back.
brought him to a Christmas party along with some other villains. So I wonder if they might actually reform like how Silver, Tipper, Topple, and Tumble did. I don't know if they will or not, but I'm just hoping so that they can fight against the furnace engines. Now let's take a look at another 3D printed model. This is Skarloey. I made him before, but he was like a Thomas Wood Stanley. All I did was 3D print him, rip the face and chassis off, and glue it on here. And the face is taped on like some models that have paper faces. So I kind of like Skarloey. He's pretty cute. He's basically like Apple Bloom, who is
I
another
like
3D
these
printed
3D
engine.
ones.
Now let's take a look at Steve here.
7.
So he was a request from someone. I don't know who exactly gave me the comment to make Steve, but he's number 4 of Train Tales. So having him with Alfred, Wilson, Boris, and Barry is kind of awesome. I made those already, as you saw in previous videos. And his chassis came from Stepney's old model. I do have a 3 printed Stepney still in the making. Now let's take a look at Eric here. So what's new about Eric is that the scar is on the other eye. So I basically redrew his face because Calvin Rogers told me that Eric's scar is on this eye. So I like to thank him for pointing that out. And I think Eric looks a lot better now. I do plan to make William.
Now
So-
you're at 8.
So now let's take a look at 3D printed Duncan here. Now he was kind of hard to make because this is actually a 2019 Percy chassis, and I had to ask Dad to cut off the rivets of the chassis, or at least split him from the chassis. So if you're wondering what's holding the chassis, well, there's a little dab of Gorilla Glue here and some air dry clay. So I don't know if he might possibly break or split from his chassis, but I hope it stays on there. But he looks pretty much the same with the face. Now we have
You need to stop and do the rest in another
12.
video.
So we have 12 customs left, but we'll stop there. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next part.